Been kind of a busy morning this morning. I'm making this video really late actually. So yesterday I told you, I think it was yesterday I told you, we were going to get a IBC tank to put in here as a chicken coop. So here's what we got. And what we'll do is we'll make the door on this side. We cut a hole in the fence, cut a hole in the IBC tank, then go right in and out. And then it came with this little plastic piece right here. And we'll be able to use that as a door. We'll be able to slide that in so they can stay secure at night. That was a pretty cheap and easy way to do it. I'll drill a hole through it. We can put a roost, stick in there or something that they can roost on. This is primarily for little chicks. I mean, the big chicks can use it too after everybody grows up. But for now, we got all those chicks in the house. And I got to find a place to put them. So we'll block off that portion of the chicken run. And then they can go in there at night. We can close them in. I'm really happy with it. It was, like I said, it was $50. I had hoped it was a little bigger, where maybe I guess I can move the chicken coop over a little. But either way, I wish it would have been a little bigger. That way we could have filled in the whole gap there. And we could have cut a hole in the chicken coop and they could have just had the whole thing as one big chicken coop, or I can close it off. I can do all kinds of things. Now the other thing is we can put another IBC tank on this side, right here. So we could cut a hole here, cut a hole in the new IBC tank, and they can have a big one if they want it. It's expanding relatively cheaply. Now the guy that we got the IBC tank from has a lot of them. Now these are not food grade. I told him what I was going to use it for. He agreed. It has an epoxy in it. So as soon as that epoxy hardens, it'd be like cement. They won't be able to get it up. So right now I got it opened up. It's drying. And he said give it about 2 weeks. He says if I don't have 2 weeks, pour some acetone in it, it'll clear right up. So we got that dragged down this morning. But when I was dragging it down, I used to have like a trailer tongue on the chicken coop. So I was cutting that off. So I drug that down. The chickens were getting all riled up. And so I cut that tongue off, and 2 of them got loose. I guess they got out through this hole. They were pretty upset. Now, I guess I should fix that hole. I hadn't planned on it until this winter. But if they're going to keep getting out, I'm going to have to fix that. Well, I thought an easy way of getting them back in was just let them all out, because that's what we do regularly. We'll let them all out. And then I can say, okay, get inside, and they all go back inside. So Carolyn brought the feed out, and we were just going to make it a normal day. Well, those 2 would not come out of the woods. What it was is we had some road crews out here resurfacing. I showed you that the other day. They got half the road the other day. Well, they finished up today, and all those trucks were making a lot of noise, and I think that was agitating the chickens. So when I came down here to bring the chicken coop down and cut off that little tongue, it really aggravated them. Well, the Buff Orpington and the New Hampshire came back. They're pretty timid. I mean, the New Hampshire was no problem. I walked right up to her, opened the door, she walked right in. It was no big deal. The Buff Orpington took a little bit of convincing, but then we had an Americana come out, and those Americanas, they're flighty. Boy, they just don't like anybody around them. I had her kind of pinned in right over here where I had that new IBC tank, and she just flew over it. She just wasn't going to tolerate it, flew right over the whole thing back into the woods. So I ended up putting all the chickens into the chicken coop and closing off the chicken coop. Fortunately, it's a fairly cool day. I opened up the chicken run and I just let her come back. We kept an eye on her. Finally, she came back and went in. I was able to close the door. Then I let the rest of the chickens out of the chicken coop, and everybody's back being happy. But I tell you, they were really agitated. I mean, they were making all kinds of noise. I suspect we won't get very many eggs for a week or 2. Anytime they get agitated like that, they shut off production of eggs. But boy, it was quite a challenge trying to get her in. But we got her. That's the first time that's happened since we've had this set up here. I guess it was just that hole and the agitation of the trucks. So it has done nothing but rain. I've told you this over and over and over again. The ground is absolutely saturated, soupy wet. I was walking and my toe actually got stuck in the mud. It just sank. So I can't cut grass. I saw a snake earlier. I mean, there's just nothing I'm going to be able to do with it. Besides that, I would have liked to have cut grass yesterday. I've been trying to cut it about every 2 weeks. And yesterday would have been 2 weeks, but I can't cut it. It's just absolutely saturated. And then it's supposed to rain again tomorrow. But Carolyn's garden, she's been trying to work on it. You can see she's got her tools and stuff out. She comes out a little bit at a time. But it's just flooded. The whole garden is flooded. I can't get it tilled. Can't do anything. I can't even get the lawnmower in here without sinking. It's just incredible how much rain we got. So she is absolutely concerned that her plants are going to die. Everything's starting to look anemic. I mean, you can see this pepper here. It's a sweet banana pepper, and it's just anemic, and it's got brown spots on it. So she's really worried. The tomatoes look like they're going to be okay. I think tomatoes, if I'm not mistaken, are actually a rainforest plant. I think they are like equator plants, so they should be okay. They might make it as long as it stays hot. But over here, everything's looking anemic. She said the only thing's looking good is the watermelon, which makes sense. They like a lot of water. So I don't see too much wrong over here. I guess one of the beans, that looks kind of anemic there. So I feel bad for her. She's worked so hard on this garden this year. Different altogether. I mean, here we are almost June, last part of May. It got down to the low 40s last night. It was incredibly cold, so I had to turn on the heater. That's very odd for this time of the year. You can't do anything. I'm not complaining. You know, every time I say anything about weather, well, maybe you should move somewhere nicer. Missouri is an awesome state to live off grid. There's just nothing that compares in my mind. And I mean, they leave you alone around here. It's just fantastic. But the weather is really strange this year. I hear over on the east, they're in 100 degrees. Down in Texas, they're in 100 degrees. In Colorado, it's snowing. Ooh, go figure. So one of the things I tried today, I meant to mention this earlier, was we thought we'd sit out the trap and see if we could get the chicken to come in. So she ate all the food. You can see I put food in there, but she didn't trip it. I think that's just incredible. How did she not trip it? The trip was right there, so easy. I mean, I shut it so the wild animal. She should have just been able to. So I guess she didn't step on that or something. Nothing was working. Now, you know that I got 2 little chicks in here. Those 2 chicks were from one of the hens. She raised the eggs. You know, she sat on the eggs for 21 days. We got 2 chicks out of it. And so we've got them isolated in this little chicken house or whatever you want to call it. And it was cold last night. I don't know if you can see them, but it was cold last night. But they're getting pretty big. Their feathers are really sprouting out, and they did fine. So, I mean, there's just nothing we can complain about. They're doing great. I shined a flashlight in there last night to see how they were doing. One of them had their head laying on top of the other one. I'm glad they're all back home. I mean, I was really concerned. You know, we got eagles flying around here. I've showed you some bald eagles. And I know we got at least 3 that are pretty consistently around here. So I was pretty concerned that the eagles would come by and swoop up one of those chickens I got loose. But I decided, you know what, we got 14 chickens, 2 roosters. And then we just bought the Brahmas, so there's 5 more hens, 2 more roosters. Of course, we're gonna get rid of Frenchie and Rue. What my thinking was, I guess it just happens. I guess occasionally you lose a chicken for one reason or another. And so you start rotating them out. You know, we got all these chickens in 1 year. That means all the eggs are gonna stop producing all in the same year. Then we got these 2 little ones. So they'll stop producing the year after. And then we got the Brahmas. They'll stop producing the year after. Well, then what we'll do, right now we got 15 meat birds that we incubated. So as we lose chickens, if one was to die today, we could have just taken 3 more. Let's say the 3 got out and never came back. We could have taken 3 of those meat birds and raised them as regular egg birds. That would have reduced the amount of meat, but it would start rotating out the stock, which I'm really concerned about anyways, that they're all going to stop producing eggs at the same time. Yeah, these guys are starting to get a little bit more ambitious. Look at that. That chicken was up here, holding on to the fence, trying to get out. I'm gonna have to zip tie that. What is going on with these guys? They're getting more ambitious, more brave. what they're wanting is all this grass. It's growing up, and they want the grass, so I'll give them a little bit. They all come running. You don't want to give them too much grass. We learned that last year. If they start eating a lot of grass, you got to give them some grit. So they're not their gizzard, they're crop. Gizzard. I guess it's their gizzard. It's either their gizzard or their crop, but it's whatever's in their stomach, not in their throat. You got to give them grit so that grit can grind up the grass. Last year we didn't. Well, we didn't even know. Well, we knew we had to give them grit, but we didn't know that grass was bad for them. But what happened was we had a rooster. He ate a bunch of grass, and it all got compacted up in his gizzard. Let's call it a gizzard for lack of a better word. Without any grit. And he couldn't breathe. It was pressing up against his heart and his lungs. So if you give him too much grass, that'll all get compacted in there, and you gotta give him grit. So I don't give them much. I know a lot of people say, hey, let them come outside and eat the grass. It is a concern to me to do that. Now, another thing that happened to us last night was we had a soft egg. It didn't have the hard shell. It was just a soft membrane. So they're running out of calcium. And I know why they're running out of calcium. So we gave them some calcium. Don't think that we're neglecting them. But what happened is Carolyn is giving this fermented food. The fermented food doesn't have calcium in it. The stuff we buy at the store does. So the fermented food is like Milo and, you know, I don't know, it's all kinds of different stuff. So they've been eating all that and none of the calcium food. So if you can take a look at that super thanks button down there, I'd really appreciate it. So I hope I can inspire you to get through the rough days so you can enjoy the easy days. Thanks for watching.